So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session on incorporating multiverse into your ETC system. My name is Rory Fraser-McKenzie. I am ETC's market manager for Europe. So I cover Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and the Russia CIS territories. We are going to be doing this session today. Tom Maguire, who will introduce himself in a minute, will be presenting. We will hand it over to Tom.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Maguire. I'm a field service engineer here at ETC Limited, and today I'm going to take you through multiverse in ETC products. So we are going to look at the technology that's being used, some things about it, and then I will show you actually setting it up on a fixture very quickly and easily. And we've got a few fixtures around that we can show via concert. That all the data flow carries on as normal, so your workflow doesn't change. It's just going wirelessly over instead of over a wire. So first of all, what is multiverse? Okay, multiverse is a city theatrical technology. They've developed it, and if you want to know, take a deep dive into multiverse, they have a YouTube series on this. It's about 10 videos long, which takes you through all of the details of multiverse and how to set it up and all the different product ranges they offer for that. So that is a really good place to start, because all of that transfers over to the ETC products in the way we use it. But multiverse is the most sophisticated DMX and RDM wireless technology available. Okay, there's a huge amount of R&D work has gone into getting as much data down over the wireless as possible, and it's very clever in the way it does that. So it gets more DMX data down. We use less radio, and we are getting RDM traffic back as well. Okay, there is error correction in the system, and there is show key security. So this is great, where you might have two systems nearby that you don't want to interact between each other, or you just want to lock your system down, so without that show key security you can't actually be connected to that multiverse system. So that is in there. So a few things about multiverse is we have the frequency, the show ID, and the power. All of these need to be set up for your system to work. Your frequency, we will only be supporting the 2.4 gigahertz range. That is the only range that's globally available. In North America, City Theatrical do support the 900 megahertz range, but we have only got the 2.4 in our products, which makes it globally usable. The show ID is a way of selecting which transmitter you are talking to. Okay, so you could have multiple transmitters, and you want to be selecting which one you are actually connected to. And you can only have one transmitter in a system, but you can have as many receivers as you like. Okay. And the power is just how much radio power you're going to use. So the least you can get away with, the better for interference and everything else. But if you need to go long distances, you can turn that up as required. So the show key is a 3-digit number, which should match between your transmitter and receiver. If you want those two to be locked to that, again, you don't have to have one set, but if you need one, you can use that. And then which universe you are listening to. If you're using one of the multiverse transmitters that can transmit multiple universes, you obviously need to select that to make sure you're picking up the right one. So here's just a breakdown of the multiverse show ID, and that is basically made up of 4 parts. The prefix, which is in our world will be 2.4 or 2.4, the data rate, the band, so which part of the spectrum we are using, and this can be all of it, low, medium, and high, and also the extreme high, which avoids Wi-Fi. Okay, so it is 2.4 still, but it avoids the Wi-Fi channels that would be normally used for things like your internet access and things like that. And you've also got adaptive hopping and the hop pattern, which will mean it will switch around within the frequency to avoid interference. Okay, and it switches many times a second. So even if one packet gets blocked by something, you will be followed up by another packet very quickly to get to the fixtures. So you should see no performance disruption to your system. So ETC products so far that have Multiverse. Okay, we launched Multiverse with the FOS4 panel and the FOS4 Fresnel. We recently added the color source relay, and now we are adding the Sourcefire LED Series 3 and the Desire Fresnel. So all of these have the Multiverse technology in them, which means while you might not have all of these products right now, if you find in the future you have lots of these products, you have a Multiverse system ready to go, and getting that set up and running will be very quick. You just need a transmitter for those products. So compatibility. There are obviously all of our products are compatible with other Multiverse devices. That's not a problem. And there is some support for the legacy Show DMX and Show Neo products, which was the previous Theatrical technology, which was wireless DMX. So even if you have a system with the old Show DMX or Neo products, you could integrate these products with that out of the box. There are other wireless technologies out there for various different vendors that have their own wireless technology. We won't be compatible with those, okay, and vice versa. So those are incompatible with that. So it's something to be aware of. So when do you think you should use wireless? It is a useful technology that would be helpful in certain scenarios, but we don't envision people switching everything to wireless straight away. You're not going to have wireless in every product. But you think about if you want to hang a special where you wouldn't normally have a cable, you can actually just jump wirelessly very quickly to speed up some installation. Anything temporary that you want to be hung up fast and taken down quickly, saving yourself a few data cables can speed up your get in and get out times and things like that. You do need to plan these systems though. Obviously, just putting in wireless does require some planning of where your transmitter and your receiver is going to be. And Theatrical will go into a bit of detail about that on their videos of how that should be set up and the options for that. So very good to watch those if you need more information on that. So useful places, protected venues where you might not be able to run new cables. You just want to you have power but no data. Great, you can just give it power and do wireless. Small upgrades, again, you don't need to run data cables, and temporary setups. Really useful for that approach. So there does need to be a bit of planning ahead to obviously know that you're going to get the best setup of your wireless system. Positions of transmitters, position of your fixtures, also aerials that you're going to be using. All of our fixtures ship with a omnidirectional aerial, so you need to make sure they are all aligned to make sure things are working, and we'll go into those a little bit later. Site surveys, knowing what other wireless information or wireless technology is in the venue or area that you're working in, which will allow you to then tune with the settings in the fixtures and the transmitters where you're going to sit your fixtures in that pattern. Okay, so this will be where you would choose whether you're going to be high, medium, or low in the range, or you need to avoid the Wi-Fi band altogether. So that's things to be aware of, and making sure you're aware of what other wireless is going on. Okay, so let's actually look at the settings on the fixtures. I will actually show you an actual fixture very shortly, but this is a nice view of the settings. Obviously, the first thing we've got is the universe. So if you are using a multiverse transmitter that is sending multiple universes, you're going to need to make sure you're on the right universe for that to work. Show ID. So this is the show ID that is going to be on your transmitter. It needs to match on your receiver. So you need to get those set up, and I will set up a fixture in a minute. And your show key, again, this needs to match so that you get that added security between your fixture and your transmitter, so nobody else can get in there without knowing what that show key is and receiving that data. And again, this is useful for not only security, but also if you have adjacent venues or areas where you may have multiple multiverse systems working and you don't want them to clash with each other. And then the power, so you would set that to by as low as possible you can get away with, but you can crank it all the way up to max if you want. And by default, we have got multiverse turned off, so it's set to off. Okay, so that means multiverse won't be used, but the technology is in the fixture there for when you want it. One thing to note is the DMX address is not set in this view. Okay, so that while it's receiving the universe, it's using the same DMX address on the fixture as you would normally set for DMX input. Okay, so those two are linked. Just a few things of pre-troubleshooting things. So you've got the City Theatrical radio scan tool. This is a really useful tool for doing site surveys, finding out what else is in the area. So you can adjust your setup to get the best performance you can get and avoid any interference. One thing to note on the antennas is they are omnidirectional. So this means they create a donut-shaped band of radio, and that donut needs to actually overlap with the other donut. So if we take the donut analogy and put this into this view, you'll notice that we have two aerials at the top there. They are in the same direction. That means their donuts overlap. When you turn one of the aerials through 90 degrees or any other where the donuts don't overlap, you're going to have you're not going to get communication between those devices. So there's something to be aware of when you are doing setup of your fixtures, to make sure your fixtures aerials are all pointing in the same direction and that they're all pointing in the same direction as the transmitter. Line of sight is preferred, but obviously sometimes that's not possible. So you just need to make sure that that's all lined up. On the back of the fixture, there is diagnostics for all of this. So if you are having setup issues, there is a diagnostics menu that you can go through and actually find out what is going on and what you're seeing come through from the multiverse system. One thing you will note in here is that you will see bad packets. Seeing some is normal. Okay, there is always going to be some bad packets that don't quite make it through the multiverse transmitter and through the air. But as I said, there's so many packets being sent at a quick data rate that you shouldn't notice any effects to operation. It's when you start seeing these climb that you may have an issue. So that is a useful tool when diagnosing your system if required. So a few other things is just trying some different units, move things about, change show IDs. You have to use this as if you were fault finding a DMX cable issue, but now you're doing it wirelessly. So using those same troubleshooting tools, you can use the settings of the fixture to try and figure out why things might not work. And yes, do you have any interference? And that's where the radio scan comes in. Changing your show ID might be useful. Changing which band of the frequency you're using to check if you have run into that at all. Any questions before I jump into just showing it on the fixture?
No, show me the fixture.
Okay, we're going to switch over to the fixture. So first things first is actually setting up the fixture for wireless. First thing you'll need to do is install the aerial, which is actually installed on a little carrier on the yoke down here, which is just slightly out of shot. But that comes in the carrier on the fixture, so it's there. So at least you've got somewhere nice to store it when you're not using Multiverse. And then you can install it. So the first thing we need to do is install this on the fixture, and it just screws in on the bottom here. There we go. So now we've got the aerial installed, and obviously we've got all the adjustments for lining it up with your transmitter to make sure you've got the best signal strength. So the next thing to do is jump into the menu, and just pressing the menu button will get us in there. And you'll notice we've got the multiverse settings in here. So tap on the menu to get in there, and here we've got our 4 options. And you'll notice, if you've seen the other product lines that use the same UI, these dials will change color to match up with the settings that are on the screen. So the universe number is adjusted by the white, the power is red, show key is blue, and show ID is green. First thing you'll notice is the power is set to off. Okay, so this means multiverse isn't enabled, and I just need to change that to bring that online. Then I need to set my show ID, which is usefully set where I want it, and the show key if required. And then just a quick tap of the green button will save that, and now multiverse is enabled on this fixture. So just coming back to my computer, I'm going to quickly share this. So what I've got set up is Concert on the computer here, and you'll notice we have a 4-port gateway here that is connected to a multiverse node, and this has got a few fixtures connected to it. 2 of the panels, which are actually lighting me right now, and then we've got 2 fixtures here, and this is the Luster X8 that is in next to me, and if I turn that on, you will probably see that flash in my video. So that's me identifying it. And then behind Rory, we have, in another part of our office, we have another fixture, and if I identify that, you'll be able to see that flash on his video feed as well. So we are doing wirelessly across our office to another fixture. Now, all of this is...
For those of you that know the London office, Tom is currently in a corner of the Playhouse on the stage, and I am upstairs in one of the offices. So we're transmitting through that metal mesh wall and a couple of plasterboard and brick walls as well.
But for my workflow as required for this is no different as if I was using a DMX RDM fixture. Okay, so I can, because we are sending RDM from an ETC gateway into the multiverse node, that is going wirelessly across to the fixtures, and that allows me to control these and set any settings just like we normally would in an RDM fixture. Okay, so I have all of those options and I can control it from here. So my workflow, while it requires an extra transmitter and connecting, my day-to-day workflow on this doesn't change when actually setting up these fixtures. So you can leave these wirelessly quite happily, and if you need to change a DMX address, change any of the settings on them, you can do that directly from ETC Net3 Concert, the consoles, anything that does RDM through our products. Just to prove that this is doing multiverse, I will quickly just turn this off, and you'll notice it will disappear from my network. So I've just turned multiverse off, and you can see it's disappeared. I can't control it now because I'm not connected to it anymore. And hopefully if I re-enable it, it will come back. And there we go. That's how quick multiverse is. It enabled and disabled very fast, and showed me on the computer instantly. So it's a great extra tool to your toolbox for events, theatre, TV, anything like that, where you can now save yourself the cable run of DMX. Okay, I'll open the floor back up to questions. All looks very empty in there. Rory's answered them all.
We have had one question that I don't know 100% of the whole answer, which is that universe setting independent of the patched universe on the console? If you're not sure of the answer,
no.
Stab at it.
No, I believe your console will be sending universes into the multiverse transmitter, and that will be set to transmit those universes wirelessly. So it is the same SACN universe.
So the multiverse transmitter, the 2.4 gig transmitter, can transmit up to 10 universes from its streaming ACN input. So as part of the setup of that transmitter, you can choose which of those universes are being transmitted, and then you are just saying to the fixture itself, please listen to this universe. So you can have multiple different universes all coming out of that one transmitter. Tom, do you have a slightly wide angle that shows that transmitter at all?
I can just hold it up.
Or holding it up would work too. There we go. There it is.
There we go. It's just on the desk below me there.
We've also
multiverse.
Another question come in on, does the wireless RDM control require an ETC gateway?
If you want to use an ETC console or concert to do the RDM control, then yes, it will require an ETC gateway or an ETC gadget connected. But the RDM is the standard RDM standard. So all the multiverse transmitter is doing is taking RDM in from the source, wirelessly transmitting it, and then getting it back from the fixture. So if you had another product that did RDM, then that would go wirelessly across to our fixtures, just like normally plugging into it would. But because we don't have the without trying to diverse too far, the RDM net standard, there is no one standard for doing RDM across the network yet that we all talk.
Tom, we've also had another question come in of, can that transmitter just be plugged directly into an EOS console using streaming ACN?
Yes, it can. But one thing to note about the network-based SACN transmitter is you won't get RDM, again, because we don't have the RDM net standard. So if you want to use RDM, you have to go via DMX through one of the Theatrical DMX transmitters. So that's just a bit of a hop. But otherwise, yes, you can go straight SACN into this multiverse transmitter here that I'm holding up. It has a network port on the end here, and transmit 10 universes of SACN across your system straight away.
So just to kind of expand on that, it does not have to be an ETC console. Other console manufacturers are available. That transmitter is just taking streaming ACN in and sending it out. It is, a universal standard. We will be touching a bit more on that transmitter in the satellite application, but if you are using the streaming ACN into there, that transmitter has a Bluetooth connection that allows you to connect the City Theatrical DMX CAT app or our own satellite app via Bluetooth, which allows you to go in and do those RDM measurements direct through that gateway rather than through the console. As Tom has mentioned, the RDM, the net RDM standard is still being worked on by some very, very clever people.
Yeah, it has been ratified, but it hasn't been rolled into many products out in the real world yet.
Another question, Tom, of how many transmitters can be used at the same time in a system?
I believe as many as you like, but as long as they are not overlapping with their show IDs or anything like that. So you can have one transmitter that is dealing with 10 universes and it'll be on its own show ID and maybe show key. And then you could have another one doing another 10 universes on a separate show ID, and then your receivers would be set to look for those specific transmitters. But you just don't want to be overlapping in any way.
It's also worth mentioning that you can have many, many, many receivers listening to that one transmitter. So you have 512 channels being transmitted in that universe. In theory, you could have 512 single channel receivers listening to it. City Theatrical's webinars will have a bit more details on those system limits. So don't hold me to that 512 receivers per transmitter number. Please do check their documentation.
Yeah, I watched the video last night, and they said that there is as many receivers as you would like. So if you wanted 10 fixtures on the same DMX address, that wouldn't count against anything. You can have 10 fixtures on the same DMX address and just keep going.
Yes, this is full 10 universes. It's a tested number. Yes, it is. So that multiverse transmitter has two 2.4 gigahertz aerials on it. You can do 5 universes per transmitter, per 2.4 gigahertz aerial in that transmitter. The data rate obviously reduces. So they're testing City Theatrical again, have a really nice chart that explain how you can balance your priorities of the number of transmitters and how fast that refresh rate is, and how close the transmitters are. So obviously once you start kind of really pushing to that 10 universes of data, if those were all being received by LED screens that are in view of the audience, or LED panels, and you were trying to do a very, very fast pixel mapped chase, you may start seeing some issues, which is why they have a very, very useful guide on kind of trying to prioritize the number of transmitters, the distance being transmitted, the number of receivers. And another comment that has come in from one of our members of staff is, you're welcome to buy loads and loads of phosphor panels and test it for us. We'd be very happy to.
Wait to see if there's any more questions coming in.
I think we're right for you to carry on a little bit more if there's more to see.
I will just throw up the diagnostics very quickly. That's one thing I haven't shown.
So for those of you that are familiar with using Source for LED Series 1 and 2 or our Desire line of washlight fixtures, you may not have been aware of the fact that they have very, very useful diagnostic tools built into the fixture where you can analyze that incoming DMX stream. This kind of then is replicated in this unit for the multiverse, where you have all of this diagnostic information that Tom is showing now. Are you able to tilt the fixture down a little? Oh,
that's what I was just about to do. Yes, sorry. So hopefully.
And then can you rotate the back slightly towards you? We're just catching reflection. There we go.
There we go. So here we can see all of the diagnostic information about the fixture, what's going on, what levels we're receiving, DMX errors, anything like that. And then if I switch to the multiverse, you can see here, we're seeing all the multiverse diagnostics. So you can flick between those two quite easily to see what's going on. So I'm quite close to our transmitter here, so I'm probably not getting many bad packets, but I'm seeing all of that information come in here as that changed. So if you're on a wired system, you can see that, and on a wireless, you can see the other options there. Okay. So
I've also just had a look at the back of mine, and despite being at the other end of the building, I still have excellent level of reception.
Excellent.
Multiverse not present. You're not currently transmitting to this one at the moment. That would do it. That's why it's receiving no bad packets, because it's not receiving any packets at the moment.
Which is so you can see I've actually just identified my fixture, and that is actually, you can see levels changing. And if I identify Rory's, probably see some levels change on that fixture there.
You won't be able to see because I think I'm still in a small camera view, and Tom is the full screen. But,
yes.
But you won't be able to see the details on the screen, but it is now receiving multiverse, as you can see with the light turning on and off.
One thing you'll note on is the multiverse settings are all available via RDM, which is also available via the multiverse wireless via RDM. So any of this you can change, but obviously make sure when you're changing this, you will need to change your transmitter at the same time, otherwise you're going to lose contact with your fixture. So it's a trap you can get caught in where you've changed your show ID and forgot to change your transmitter there. So that's one thing to be aware of. But multiple ways of configuring this fixture, and you'll see more in the satellite app as well, another way of doing that. Okay, so any more questions coming in?
Yeah, we've had another one come in via the chat, so it won't appear in the Q&A feed, which is about which multiverse products are available through ETC. So your ETC dealers, if they are not also City Theatrical dealers, are able to order the multiverse transmitter through us. The multiverse show baby, which is the single universe transceiver, so it can be used as a transmitter or a receiver. And I'm sure there was one other than I've completely forgotten what it is. Obviously, we have our own color source multiverse. Someone is typing into the node. There we go. The multiverse node. That is the third multiverse product. And And then obviously all of our own products that have Multiverse built into them, which is the Phosphor panel, the Phosphor Fresnel Source for LED Series 3, the new Desire Fresnel, and also the newly updated Color Source Relay Multiverse. So that Multiverse Color Source Relay uses the Multiverse transmitter or a show baby as its transmitter and gives you that relayed control as well as DMX output. We have also had questions about what our plans are for Multiverse. We plan on integrating Multiverse into lots more things. I think that's quite an easy statement to make. We will not necessarily be integrating it in every product we make, but where we think there is added value to the users, we will be integrating it in as we think it's a great option as your system expands. And there will probably come a time where you will look at your front of house bar and go, hang on a minute, every single fixture hanging on that has Multiverse. Why am I running DMX to it? So there kind of will come a time where even if you're not planning on using Multiverse immediately, it may start to make sense for you as a venue. And yeah, I thoroughly recommend having a look at some of the Multiverse webinars on City Theatrical's webpage. So that's citytheatrical.com/multiverse. They list all of the various different products, the extra antennas that you can buy for Yagi and panels for different shapes, transmission rates. As well as a good range of different webinars that they have run in the last year that kind of talks about all of the different products, how to configure them, how to work with the whole range. So if you want to learn more, please do look into those or get in contact with us at ETC as well, and we will try and help you as best we can. A question about will a receiver be introduced to use other fixtures? Are you able to give a little bit more detail on that? I'm just not quite sure if I understand. As in, would you be able to kind of hang a receiver and then feed it to others? Because that would be the role of the show baby, or you can use our color source relay multiverse to receive that data and then send that down a standard DMX line to other fixtures. There we go. Fantastic. So that was confirmation that my guess at that question was right. So yeah, the show baby is designed as that already, just as a receiver. We are also investigating whether or not you would be able to use a fixture as a node, but there are some kind of engineering challenges to that we're still looking at. So there are some of our moving lights that can take streaming ACN in will also then output DMX on that port. So one of the questions we've had on Multiverse is whether you could use a single fixture as a gateway. Obviously, you kind of get into that show critical conversation of if that fixture dies, do you lose everything on the bar because you've lost your node and that fixture, and therefore everything further downstream has lost that. But yeah, it's something we're still looking into. Excellent. Well, in which case, if there are no more questions, we just a comment in that yes, the City Theatrical node can be set to transmit or receive, so you can use that node in either direction. If nobody has any more questions, we will kind of draw that to a close. Thank you very much for attending this. We have 2 more webinars coming out of London later this morning, one starting in about 20 minutes, which looks at the Setlight app, which uses both that multiverse transmitter via Bluetooth and the NFC chips built into some of our fixtures to configure things. We also have a later webinar at 11 a.m. UK time, so that is 10 a.m. UTC, which is looking at the EOS color controls and how you can work with these multi-emitter fixtures to work on color. Again, if you didn't catch the launch videos, please check them out. etcconnect.com/etc launch will give you links to all of these webinars and to the videos of the products that we launched yesterday. I thoroughly recommend catching Justin Townsend's sort of half-hour keynote where he talks about the kind of the future of LEDs. That is worth a watch. And otherwise, thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.